welcome to our very first episode of Fundyland Theatre, in which we take a look at fundamentalist media that are not the Duggars. Today we are going to take a look at our first subject, A Courtship, a documentary that came out in 2015 and is on Amazon Prime currently. I promise I'm not going to do this accent for the whole video series. The documentary is about a girl named Kelly trying to find the love of her life with the help of her spiritual parents, or should I say the lack of help by her spiritual parents. It explores an old-fashioned dating premise which should have been left in the 1800s. However, people love nostalgia nowadays. In the next part, we're going to explore what courtship is. And yeah, their Duggars are going to make an appearance in that part too. So like I said, the idea of courtship is kind of old-fashioned. It's very patriarchal, which the men have basically control of a woman's relationship. Most of the time, women will have their father talk to guys that are interested in them and get to know them on a deeper level, I guess you could say. There's absolutely no physical touching allowed. Basically, hand-holding and hugging are probably acceptable, but each couple, according to them, makes their own rules. And I'm going to have the Duggars explain how a guy approaches a father if they're interested in a girl.
I would ask questions about what their background is, what their future goals are, just ask a variety of questions about their spiritual life, about their relationship with God, and then also, I'm also determining if I think that their personality would kind of line up with the daughter they're interested in.
Also, there is no kissing before marriage, which is important for this documentary to emphasize that. So the documentary is about a girl named Kelly. She's 33 years old. She lives in Michigan, and she's a dance instructor, which I'm sure the Duggars are already frowning upon. Kelly has two spiritual parents who are parents who adopted her in the spiritual aspect, instead of the men going through her biological father, or in her case, she has a stepfather as well. They go to her spiritual dad, who is Ron, who I'm going to call Fungus Toenail, because he's a D-bag, basically. So this clip I'm going to show you is Ron teaching young parents how to indoctrinate their kids young in the idea of courtship.
If you're going to be interested in courtship, and that's what you plan for your girls, if you're going to do something different than dating, start now. Teach them that courtship is normal, that this is the normal way to do it, and that dating is the unnormal way to do it.
Yes, Ron, lie to your children at a young age. I'm sure it won't scar them later on in life. So the story goes is that Kelly was in college when she became a born-again Christian. She said she wasn't finding any luck in dating, and that's when she started babysitting Ron and Dawn's two young girls. Ron and Dawn claim that Kelly wanted them to become her spiritual parents. I have a little theory behind that, but we'll get to that later on. And of course, the only way they become spiritual parents is if Kelly moved in with them. That's right. A 33-year-old woman lives with two random people because spiritual parents. Ron says in the documentary that he goes behind Kelly's back and meets up with guys that may be interested in Kelly. And these are the questions that he asks them.
What's important to her?
You ever watch Going Back? Bits and pieces a little bit.
Huh?
Yeah.
Obama playing around with Israel. What do you think about that?
Would you be comfortable with a homosexual elder that wasn't practicing?
I'm not going to get political here, but Ron's a D-bag. I cannot emphasize how much this family indoctrinates even their little girls, who one of them is under the age of 10 at this point, about the idea of courtship. Here's a clip of the youngest daughter showing off her notebook of all of her future goals.
She called me Keepsake Book because it has everything I want to do when I grow up and stuff. This is me and my husband courting. This is my wedding. That's me, and that's my husband. And then this is my honeymoon.
They've been working on those notebooks for years.
I really feel bad because when I was that girl's age, all I cared about was soccer. All I wanted to play was soccer. And obviously that changed because I'm not a professional soccer player now. The fact that they teach the girls that their only purpose in life is to get married is really, really sad. So like I mentioned, courtship really revolves around no physical, any hanky-panky before marriage. And they really emphasize saving their first kiss for their wedding day, to the point that Kelly is guilted because she kissed somebody before she got married.
She's crying.
so sweet. The very first kiss. Not many people can say that.
It's a treasure.
I am saving my next kiss, but it makes me so sad that I don't have my very first kiss to give. It's already given.
I want to emphasize that there is nowhere in the Bible that says kissing is a sin. It was basically made up as this kind of like virginity thing, that giving your kiss is just like getting your virginity taken away from you. I really feel bad for Kelly in this aspect, because you shouldn't feel guilty about kissing anyone. We find out that Kelly is actually talking to a guy whose name is Ross. Sadly, not Ross Geller from Friends. Kelly tells Ron that she's been talking to Ross, and of course Ron, being Ron, he's like, I gotta meet this guy. So Ross comes over and they have premarital hand-holding during prayer.
Appreciate that. We love you. Amen.
Amen.
Who claps after prayer? I've never heard or seen that before. Also, this is the most awkward dinner I've seen in a long time.
It's a really good meat.
So you guys have at least one other brother. How many more?
Two sisters.
Ross chewing his meat is probably going to be in my head for a long time. We then learn a little bit about Toe Fungus and Dawn's marriage. Shocker, they dated and claimed they didn't really know each other. I'm going to be honest, I really hate how they describe their relationship, but maybe you think it's sweet, I don't know.
When I first met Dawn, the relationship was totally built on convenience and physical attraction. We didn't know anything about each other, and we got married, and we had a very rocky road to begin with. That went all the way up to about the 3-year mark where Dawn and I actually had an emotional divorce. We didn't leave each other, we were still cohabitating, but emotionally, we were totally divorced.
So basically, Ron blames dating for his marital problem. Heartache and disappointment are a part of life, and if you don't teach your children that, they're not going to adapt very well to it. So we find out that Ross is interested in getting to know Kelly better, and Ron breaks the news to Dawn in the funniest and unpredictable way possible, in the back of a minivan.
Ross called me.
Yeah?
Yeah, and he said he was interested in getting to know Kelly better. And I told him I was fine with it.
Okay. Well, Kelly will be really excited to hear about that.
He asked me not to tell her.
After this, Ross and Kelly go on their first quote-unquote date at a ballet recital, I guess. And of course, Ron, Toe Fungus, looks his best for this occasion.
Hello, good to see you again. When I saw Ross, he did stick out his hand to shake my hand, so I shook it back, which was kind of funny because we've never done that before.
I guess handshaking is the equivalent of first base in courtship, right? After their first quote-unquote date, Kelly goes back to her home state of Alabama to spend Christmas with her family. We find out that Kelly's parents got divorced while she was in college, which kind of falls in line under when she became a born-again Christian. Her mother and her stepfather are concerned with her doing the courtship route versus dating route because they really don't think that she'll find anybody this way.
It seems to me that you're sheltering yourself too much. If I were a 30-year-old man and a 30-year-old woman that I met somewhere and was interested in told me that I had to go talk to somebody else before we could go out together, I'd be long gone.
Or go to a singles group. I'm not interested in meeting people that way.
How do you know that God's plan, if there is one, is not right there in that group of people? How do you know God is not leading me to try to convince you to do these things?
This next clip is pretty much Kelly's mom being a boss and telling it like it is when it comes to courtship. And I 100% agree with her on this.
God can guide your steps, but you need to be stepping. You need to be proactive rather than passive. He doesn't expect someone to just do nothing and then he does it all.
While I'm not really religious, I agree that taking steps yourself rather than relying on toenail fungus to dictate your relationship is going to find you better results than toenail fungus. Okay, so you better not be playing with my notebook full of notes about the courtship. You better not. So after Kelly comes home from Christmas, her and Ross are really starting to hang out a little bit more. He's been coming over the house more, and he's been playing his saxophone like a boss. You can definitely sense that Kelly is really starting to become interested in Ross, and it's starting to become an emotional attachment. Kelly is texting Ross. Ross is texting back. They're basically saying to each other, I'm looking forward to seeing you again, which is dirty talk in courtship. I guess that's second base for them. I'm going to have to figure out the basis for courtship. Before you write Ross and Kelly forever on your notebooks, which I almost did, Dawn finds a Facebook post that Ross posted about his friend who died. His friend sadly accidentally died of a gunshot wound that was caused by his younger brother. It's really sad and tragic. However, I'm going to have to take out my D-bag moment for Ross on this one.
I got very concerned because he was saying that it was God's will for this young man to die, for his life to end abruptly and violently.
I'm going to have to agree with Dawn. I don't care what religion you are, please don't write after someone dies that it was God's plan. That's the last thing anybody wants to hear. So after finding out about the post on Facebook, Kelly decides to message Ross in disagreements about his doctrine. I'm not really getting into a theological discussion about what their discussion was about because that's not the whole purpose of this video. But after this conversation, Ross basically ghosts Kelly, which is a real D-bag move. This is just my opinion as to why I think that courtship itself is fundamentally flawed. Yeah, you may not be physically, doing things, but emotionally, you are. And in my opinion, sometimes emotional things are way more powerful than physical things when it comes to being with someone. And of course, now Ron wants to find out from Ross what's going on. So they go on a little man date, which will be in the next part.
Ross! Oh, let me get out of here. Get a hug. Who taught you how to hug?
Probably my mother, I suppose.
Yeah?
Sorry, I wanted to include that clip again because I just think it's funny.
You and I talked briefly on the phone, and you said that you were interested in getting to know Kelly a little bit better. And I want to try and find out what your intentions are, what you're thinking, and I want to walk around that a little bit, just kind of
Talking about more specific issues than we got to before. The short answer is I started to see that there are some differences that I think would preclude going forward.
Hey Ross, you D-bag. Guess what? People have differences and don't agree on everything, but they still manage to make it work. So toenail fungus gives the news to Kelly that it's over, and Kelly's reaction pretty much sums up why I think courtship is fundamentally flawed.
My mind is trying to fill in the blanks, and my mind is trying to make sense of it all. I kind of felt like, wait, you must be wrong. No, I have the emails that say it's not a deal breaker for him. Like, that was my first thought. And then I realized, no, he just talked to him. Like, all right, so that must be true. Then, of course, I had to ask the question, well, why did we spend so much time together then? What's all this for?
See, most fundamentalists believe that dating leads to divorce, leads to heartbreak and regret. When I saw that clip, I felt like she regretted spending time with Ross. So pretty much the last 10 minutes of this documentary are them emphasizing why courtship was the better route for Kelly in this aspect, because she doesn't live with the regret of doing anything physical with Ross. Emotionally, I can't speak on Kelly's behalf, but her crying in the last part just said it all for me. I forgot to mention this in the first part, but Kelly was living with toenail fungus and Dawn for 7 years up until this point. 7 freaking years. And at the end of the documentary, it says that Kelly was now there for 10 years and that she still hasn't found anybody yet. Like I said before, this movie was made in 2015, so it's been 6 years since the documentary came out, and it's been 17 years since Kelly moved into their house. And there was a major update on Facebook, which I will get to in the next part. So like I said, there was a major Facebook update last week, I want to say, about the status of Kelly and Toenail Fungus's family, basically. Ron posted on his personal public Facebook page that 17 years later, Kelly finally moved out of their house without a suitor. Now, my theory as to why Kelly was allowed to live with them for that long, I think because Toenail Fungus may have been interested in her. That's just a theory. It's a film theory, so don't come at me with, oh, it's probably wrong. This is what I thought. Also, Ron has made his family travel around with them at tent revivals in Florida. His daughters aren't married currently, but there's nothing posted saying if they're interested in anybody currently. Thank you for tuning in to Fundyland Theater.